Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and we're back for another list video. Now, last week or a week before, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I did a video where I went over my top 5 fullbacks going into the 2021 NRL season. Now, if I'm going to do the fullbacks, I feel like I should do the whole spine. So we're going to be doing halfback, 5'8", hooker, but for this video, we're going to be doing the halfback. So I think halfback, I think we can all agree it's probably the most important position. I'd probably say it and then the hooker position, but the whole spine is obviously very important, but I'd say halfback it's always been, and I think it always will be, the number one position in terms of the importance to a team. Now, I know Cameron Smith and a few others played the hook position so well that it's kind of a debate now, but I think everybody, they grow up, they want to be the halfback, right? It's basically the rugby league equivalent of being the quarterback. I mean, everyone wants to be that quarterback, everyone wants to be the halfback, everyone wants to be the star of the show. Now, just before we get into the top 5 list, I just want to take the time to just ask, if you do happen to go ahead and enjoy this video, that you do give a like, and you also subscribe to the channel if you're also enjoying the content, because I've been pumping it out lately. The NRL season is about to start, so it is essential that you do subscribe, turn the notification bell, follow me on social media, do all that sort of stuff. Just support the channel in general, because it is very important in terms of growing the channel. That's exactly what I want to do. But I've got the plug out of the way. Let's get into the list. So starting at number 5, we have the Prince of Belmore. We have Lachlan. Okay, well, it's not Lachlan Lewis. I was just joking about that one. No, the actual number 5, I've given it to George Williams from the Canberra Raiders. Now, the Englishman, I thought he had a pretty good season in 2020. I think there's a lot of improvement with him. So I can see in a couple of years' time him being much higher up in this list. But I will say, in terms of the actual list itself, 5, 4, 3, whatever, I feel like you can interchange a lot of them, because they all have good traits, they have some bad traits. That's why they're not number 1. But they're all pretty solid players, and you can sort of interchange them out positions. So George Williams, if you want to put him at 4, 3, 2, whatever, that's up to you. But for me, I've just got him at number 5. I think he's got good defense, he's got pretty good attack. The only thing he's really lacking is try assist, but I think that's more down to just how the Raiders sort of play. I feel like he's not going to be the one who throws the last pass. I feel like it goes out the back. Jack Whiten sort of does all that sort of stuff. Even the forwards sort of do a lot of that stuff as well, with Bateman and Whitehead and Papali even. They sort of have guys who can just bash their way over. They're guys who can ball play in the forward. So the Raiders have a very good forward pack, and I think George Williams definitely benefits from that. I think he benefits from having a very good spine around him. He's got Hodgson at hooker. He's got Nicole Clodstad, who's been an absolute revelation at fullback. And he's got Jack Whiten, importantly, in the 5'8" position, who's, you could probably say he's the best 5'8" in the world. You could argue that. I think he's right up there if he's not the best. So having a halves partner like him, I think it's very important in terms of opening George Williams' game. And also just for someone who's come to the NRL in their first season, especially halves and backs, they're always looked at as, oh, well, the forwards are pretty good, the English guys, but the backs, they're not very good. They're only playing Super League standard. And George Williams, I feel like, is the exception. I feel like you're not necessarily wrong when you talk about the Super League standard in the backs not being great. We've seen guys who are very mediocre in the NRL go over and absolutely kill it in the Super League in the backs, and then they come back to the NRL and they end up in reserve grade. It happens quite a bit. But George Williams, he's come across flawlessly like pretty much all the other Raiders imports. I mean, they've got so many of them. I know Bateman's just left, but he's still got Hodgson, like I said, and another spine player. I suppose he's a forward, but he's also another one in that key spine position who's come over, and he's been really, really good. Love to see some more guys like him come over. I'd love to see some more English halfbacks come over as well after George Williams. I feel like his ceiling is so high because he's still young, and he was such a good player this year in his first season. And although the Raiders guys haven't really shown it, but I think it takes a little bit to adjust the NRL. I saw Luke Thompson, he's really struggling, or he did really struggle in 2020, but he started to find his feet in the last couple of games. And I think George Williams, the fact that he sort of hit the ground running, I think it's a good reflection of him. And I think the Raiders, I think they'll be great long term with George Williams at halfback. I know they had Aiden Caesar there. I was never really a fan of Aiden Caesar, and I know they got to the grand final with him, but I always thought he was just there. I mean, he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great. He was kind of just there. And if they had George Williams in the grand final, I think they might have won that one. But yeah, George Williams, I really rate him. And in a couple of years' time, I can see him easily being a top 2, 3 halfback. Now, moving on to number 4. This might be a controversial one because I feel like people might want him higher. But I'm going to go with Jerome Hughes from the Melbourne Storm. Now, Jerome Hughes has had a fantastic couple of years. Ever since he sort of held down that position in the Melbourne side. I know he's sort of in and out. Played a bit of fullback. Now he's gone to the halfback position, pretty much to accommodate Pappenhausen, and also the fact that they were trying to replace Cooper Cronk. Brody Croft wasn't doing the job. Riley Jacks wasn't doing the job. Jerome Hughes steps up and he does the job. They won a premiership obviously last year, and I'd say in terms of the whole final series, I would say Hughes was your MVP. Now obviously they got all these good players around them. You got your Munsters, you got your Cameron Smiths. We know how good they are. Pappenhausen even. We know they're absolutely outstanding. I mean, Pappenhausen destroyed the grand final. He was so bloody good. But at the same time, Jerome Hughes was so solid throughout that whole final series. I can't remember what game it was, but there was a game in the final series where he really stood up and he dominated that game. And obviously, you've got to win those finals games to get the grand final. So the fact that Jerome Hughes Hughes stood up. And then even in the grand final, he didn't shy away. I thought he played quite well. Obviously, the whole team was playing well with the lead they had at halftime. But yeah, Jerome Hughes was very, very good. It does help the team that he has around him, though. I was talking about George Williams having a lot of help. Jerome Hughes definitely has a lot of help. I mean, he's got Pappenhausen, who people are arguing is, he's easily a top 5 fullback at this point. You then have Cameron Munster, who could be the best 5'8". I was talking about Jack Whiten, but Cameron Munster for a long time is kind of renowned as the best 5'8" in the comp. Then you have Cameron Smith, who might be the best player ever to play the game. At least the best hooker to ever play, in my opinion. But yeah, I would go as far as to say that Cameron Smith is the best player to ever play in the NRL. So that's a pretty handy spine to sort of step into. And I feel like Jerome Hughes, no matter how good he plays, he could come out this year, even though Cameron Smith, he'll come out and they're still going to say, yeah, well, he's just a product of the Melbourne Storm system. And to be honest, he probably is. He probably is, to be honest with you, because he's not a halfback. He's a guy who's played fullback. I mean, this isn't Jerome Hughes coming in at like 20 and I'll shift into halfback or whatever. This is Jerome Hughes, like middle of his career, in the peak of his career, moving to halfback. No renowned sort of kicking game, passing game, whatever. He's just kind of like a standard fullback, a pretty solid first grade fullback, I guess. Didn't really have all those skills, but he stepped in and he has developed them for sure. But I think it helps that he doesn't have to do the decision making because he's had Cameron Smith, Munster, all those other guys. Even the forward pack of Melbourne, they're all so experienced. The Bromwich boys and that, Sofa Solomona. There's so much experience in that Melbourne side. Finucane's another one. The big problem is that unless he goes to the Warriors or a team like that, which is a big rumour at this point that he is going to go there on a big money contract, he's always going to have that doubt over him as, oh, well, he's just good because he's in the Storm system. And like I just touched on, it is kind of true. But I feel like even if this year he comes out in 2021 and has an amazing season, he could get halfback of the year. Even though Cameron Smith's not there, they'll go, oh, well, Harry Grant's there. He's still got Munster, he's still got Pappenhausen. He's still in the Storm system. So I don't think he'll ever get the credit he probably deserves. But I feel like a top 4, I think that's pretty good. Also, I kind of feel it is kind of valid to doubt him in the Storm system. I know other players haven't done well. You looked at the guys, like I just said, Brodie Croft, Riley Jacks. It's not like you just throw a guy in the halves and all of a sudden they're amazing at the Storm. But obviously Jerome Hughes, he doesn't have to do as much because Cameron Smith has been there. So I'll be very interested to see how he goes in 2021. I think it'll be a real eye-opener. Either he'll prove himself to be as good as what a lot of people say he is, or he'll prove himself to be not as good as what a lot of people say he is. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one, but that's the reason I have him at number 4. He probably should be a little bit higher, but just because he plays in the Storm system, we're not sure what he's actually fully capable of. Moving on to number 3, from the South Sydney Rabbitohs, we have Adam Reynolds. Now, this guy has been around since about 2012. I think 2012 was his debut season, and this guy has been a gun ever since. He comes in, he controls the game so well, probably the best kicking game maybe to ever be in the NRL. He's at least the best at the moment. He's got such a strong kicking game. Over the last 10 years at least, he's been the best. He's just so good. He has the ball on the string pretty much. Wherever he wants it, he can kick it. And I think that's so beneficial to a team, especially beneficial to the Rabbitohs. You add in that he's got such a strong team around him. I think that is something that is becoming quite evident with this list is these guys that are in my top 5 are all guys who are playing in really top teams. And obviously, Adam Reynolds is no exception. Right from the start, he's pretty much had a really strong side around him. He's always had some good influences around him. He's always had a good forward pack. He's had a pretty good halves partner for the most part. Started with John Sutton, Luke Cleary there, and then Cody Walker. You can't really fault them. I mean, John Sutton obviously wasn't the best of 5'8", but he was very solid for the time. He's a big body. He's probably perfect for Adam Reynolds. And even when they won the premiership, Luke Cleary's there. We've seen how Luke Cleary's gone on to become such a good player. We've seen him do absolute magical things for the Roosters. 3 premierships. He's an amazing player. Adam Reynolds hasn't quite had the success as Cleary. Obviously, they won the premiership together. Went different ways, but also went different ways in the sense that Luke Cleary went on to get all the plaudits, played in this gun Rooster side, had Cooper Cronk as his halves partner, had Tedesco there, the world's best fullback, had such a strong Rooster side around him. But Adam Reynolds, he kind of went through those stages where they had a really good side, but they just couldn't get to the grand final, and they still can't do it. And I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that Adam Reynolds can't keep fit. And I feel like if he kept fit throughout his whole career, he'd been so much higher. He probably would have been the New South Wales halfback for a long time. Instead, he sort of gets a bit of form and then pulls his hamstring or something. So I'll be honest, like when I'm talking about it, it's surprising that I have put him as high as I have. But I really rate Adam Reynolds. I think he's got all the skills to be an amazing halfback. He's got all the traits. The only thing is he can't stay on the field long enough. And like I expressed earlier, I think that's a big problem as to why the Rabbitohs haven't won a premiership since 2014. Because they definitely have the squad to do it. They just injuries at the wrong times of the year. And Adam Reynolds is a big one for it. And hopefully he can stay injury-free because I think he's got a couple of good years left in him. And I think he will be essential to the Rabbitohs going forward. And I did a video maybe like a month ago where I was talking about how the Rabbitohs need to win in the next year or two because Adam Reynolds and Cody Walker are both getting quite old. Now, I think they're both about 30 odd. Cody Walker, I think for sure is 30. So you've got an aging halves pairing, and we've seen the injuries already hitting Adam Reynolds. So I think it's essential that he stays injury-free, and Cody Walker as well, over the next couple of years. And I think you might see a premiership coming to the Rabbitohs. But I think it all revolves around Adam Reynolds, and I think that's why he's so high on this list, because even though he's got such good players around him, everything still revolves around Adam Reynolds. He's such a good goal kicker too. That's the thing that doesn't get talked about enough probably, is that he's goal kicking. Every time they score, it's not a 4-pointer, it's a 6-pointer. And I feel like the Bulldogs fans, we know what we're talking about in terms of that sort of stuff. We've had Halligan, we've had El Mazri, and then going from them to the goal kickers we've had as of late, where they're most likely going to miss, you realise how big of a difference it is going up by 6s rather than the 4. I mean, it's just general maths. You can obviously tell if you're going up by 2 points every single time, couple tries, and you can still win a game by scoring less tries, just because the goal kicking is so good. So that's why Adam Reynolds is so beneficial to a side. But like I said, he just needs to be on the park. Now moving on to number 2, we have from the Manly Warringah Seagulls, we have Daly CherryEvans. Now I feel like a lot of people would have him at number 1, and they wouldn't be wrong. I mean, he is the incumbent in terms of the Australian halfback position, which in theory means he should be number 1, I guess. But I have someone else in the halfback position. I think you can probably figure it out by now. But CherryEvans, he's been so good. He just led Queensland to a series win. The series that was unwinnable, he won. And it was against a red-hot New South Wales side. Like, it wasn't a side that was just chucked into there and there was no form or anything. We had guys like Nathan Cleary coming into the side. They were all talked up. And CherryEvans, while I don't think he was absolutely amazing, I don't think Queensland in general were absolutely amazing. They just didn't shit the bed like New South Wales. And CherryEvans was a big part of that. He kept them cool, calm and collected, and he got the job done. And that's what CherryEvans seems to do. Even though he doesn't even seem to have like the best star game. He's not one of those guys who's going to score the flashy tries like Sean Johnson and all that, or he's going to do some amazing kick, whatever. He's just so solid. He just gets the job done. And I feel like in a way, despite CherryEvans playing for Australia and playing for Queensland and doing that sort of stuff, winning premierships, he's never going to get the credit he probably deserves, because I wouldn't say he's the most likable person off the field. And it's nothing even in terms of, there's so many players in the NRL. I mean, there's scandals now of cheating and players bashing people and all that sort of stuff. CherryEvans has done absolutely none of that. I think it all revolves around the whole Gold Coast backflip. When he left to sign with the Titans and then backflipped on it, sort of leaving the Titans in the lurch and not really letting them know, and just sort of leaving their plans just absolutely destroyed, and then re-signing with Manly for big money. So it was always a big thing where CherryEvans is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's the highest paid player in the NRL. Don't quote me on that one, but if he's not, he's very, very high, and I think he's at least the highest paid halfback. And like I was saying, halfback you would think is the most important position. So he's getting paid more than guys like Cooper Cronk and your Cameron Smiths and all that when they were in the league. So there was a lot of pressure on CherryEvans. The fact that he plays for Manly as well, which is sort of a generally hated side. Maybe not so much these days, but for a long time, not really rated. People don't really like Manly. But I think going forward, I feel CherryEvans, I feel like when he retires, people will appreciate him more. But he really can do it all. He's a good defender, good attacker. He's got a good mind for it. He's the captain. He's just a winner, man. And even though Manly haven't necessarily been winning, we know he can. We know he's capable of it. And it's just a matter of keeping the other guys around him on the field. Because you can't win a premiership by yourself. I mean, you can lose a premiership by yourself, but you can't win it. You need a team around you. And Tom Trbojevic hasn't been there. Jake Trbojevic has been in and out injured. Just all of their key players in and out injured. And I think that's been the story of CherryEvans' career. When they first won in 2011, he had Kieran Foran, he had a fit Kieran Foran, he had Brett Stewart, he had all these gun players, Jamie Lyons, Steve Matai, they were all fit and firing. In 2013, they went very, very close. If it wasn't for a Sonny Will forward pass, we might have seen them lift another trophy. Then it all sort of derailed when Kieran Foran left and hasn't really been able to find a solid 5'8". They've tried a few guys. There's been Blake Green, Dylan Walker, Hastings. There's a few other guys. We all saw the falling out of Hastings, which is another reason why people sort of soured on CherryEvans. But in terms of trying to find a solid 5'8", they haven't really done that. And I still don't think they necessarily have. I mean, Kieran Foran's back, but he's another one who you've got to keep him on the field. So I don't see Manly having a super successful year in 2021, but I can see CherryEvans still being solid, and I still think he is the second best halfback in the game. I think if you add him into any of the top sides, I think he'd easily be their best player, and I think they would win a premiership. Like if you chuck him in the Rooster side right now, you have him and Luke Cleary, they win a premiership 100%. 100%. CherryEvans is a star player. He just won't get the credit he deserves because of who he plays for and that backflip incident back in 2013, whatever it was. Now we move on to number 1. I think you already know who this is going to be. I kind of touched on it earlier. It's Nathan Cleary. He's been hyped up, and I think he's absolutely delivered. The only thing is he hasn't delivered a premiership, and he hasn't delivered in an Origin performance. We saw him do it in Game 2, but he didn't do it in Game 3, which sort of leads me to say, like, why would you pick him at number 1? But after the season he had, I think you got to put him at number 1. Even though he's not the Australian halfback, I feel like if they had an Australian team, it's just due to the fact of COVID, they didn't have an Australian team. So I think Nathan Cleary would have found himself as the halfback. And he is so young, so he's got such a high ceiling. Talking about George Williams having a high ceiling, Nathan Cleary, he's just through the roof. Like, he doesn't even have a ceiling. He just keeps going. It just keeps going. It's the sky's the limit for him, I guess. The only problem is when you get players like that, I feel like they're susceptible to sort of just stalling because, like, they're already good. That's just how it is. Or they won't get the credit they deserve, like a CherryEvans. When you got a guy like CherryEvans, came in, won a premiership so early on, we already know he's good. So it's like, well, if he doesn't play a 10 out of 10 game, well, it's like, Matt, you're supposed to be the best. You're on the biggest money. You came in, you won a premiership your first year. Like, where do you go from there? Anything to downgrade. And for Nathan Cleary, he's a couple of years in. I think like he's hitting his peak, or probably not even his peak. He's probably still a long way off his peak. He's already done so much in the game at such a young age. He needs to win a premiership, and I think he really needs like a dominating Origin game, a dominating Origin series even, because we've seen him produce a good game, but just in terms of the series, he's been a bit of a passenger. But we just need to see Nathan Cleary take it on in the finals, take it on in State of Origin, because we have seen him take it on in the final, but just the grand final, he wasn't great, but I think he's so young. It was the first grand final. Obviously, it wasn't like CherryEvans where he won, but it was just in different circumstances. Melbourne was such a good team. He didn't get to take on a young Warriors side. I think Nathan Cleary would be better for it. I think the whole team of Penrith would be better for it. I don't know if 2021 will be the year, but I think Nathan Cleary individually, I think he will be a very, very good player. It's just a matter of injuries. I think they're the only thing that can stop him, because I think he is the most talented halfback in the game, and I think he's the most skillful, and I just think he is the best halfback in the game. That's why I got him at number 1. He can really do it all. His defense is strong, kicking game strong. He can lay on a try. He's good with tactical stuff. He's a very, very strong goal kicker. He's kind of like Adam Reynolds if Adam Reynolds wasn't injured and, you know, a little bit better. It's just that I feel like I was saying all the same stuff about Adam Reynolds, but there was always, oh, but he's injured. Whereas Nathan Cleary, he's at the start of his career. He's got a little bit more pace. I think he's just going to be an amazing player. And it remains to be seen if he's going to hit the heights that people think he will. I think he's very well capable of doing it, but we all know football is just, I mean, Tim Smith was a guy who came on and had such a good year, and a couple of seasons later, he's out of the NRL and he's out of the scene. So we know as fast as players come on the scene, they can also go off it, and Nathan Cleary is not exempt to that. So he definitely needs to keep working hard and sort of just keep knuckling down and keep playing and hope that injuries don't hit him. But at the moment, I'd say he's the number 1 halfback in the game. Leave in the comment section below who's your number 1 halfback, who's your top 5 even. I'm very intrigued to see, because I feel like a lot of people are going to have differing opinions. So go ahead, leave it in the comments. Feel free to even send me a message on social media, tweet me, send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want. We can have a discussion there about the top 5 halfbacks even, or any other discussions that you want to have a chat about. So go ahead and give me a follow on social media. Also make sure you like and subscribe if you do enjoy the video. Like I said earlier, it is essential to growing the channel, especially with the NRL season coming up very, very quickly. I have been grinding, been making a lot of videos, so hopefully it does get rewarded, and hopefully you do like and subscribe. Anyways, that's how I'm going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you to the next one. See yous.